Everyone, this is Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers.
Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.
Grow up. Stand up. Live it up. Hello, everybody. Armstrong Williams. Oh, and yes, you know we're live and in living color. Making habits, breaking habits. Why do we do the things? Why don't we? And how to make any change stick. Why do we do things? Why we don't? And how to make anything stick. Jeremy Dean. Jeremy, welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show.
Thank you very much, Armstrong. Good to be here.
Why is it so good to be here? I'm just kidding. Just feeling good. What are the habits we need to break, man? And what are the habits we need to take on? Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you very much. Well, I think it depends on who you are, what kind of habits that you'll want to take on. It'll depend what you're motivated to do, I suppose.
Is alcohol and coffee a bad habit, or does it need to be in moderation?
Absolutely, I think they can be. If they go too far, and because alcohol is addictive, it's very easy for it to get out of control, I guess. And some people do seem to be more susceptible to becoming addicted to alcohol.
So tell us the purpose behind your book, Making Habits, Breaking Habits.
Well, the purpose really was to, I started off with a simple question: how long does it take to make a new habit? And I looked it up the way a lot of people do nowadays. I Googled it, and when I Googled it, it said 21 days is how long it takes to make a new habit. But I'm a research psychologist, so I wanted to see some kind of evidence for this, some kind of study, and there was none. There was nothing. Until in 2009, there was a study done, and they tried to see how long people would take to form habits, like simple things like eating an apple, having a glass of water, or possibly doing some push-ups, going to the gym, things like that. And there was massive variation. Some people took a couple of weeks. Some people took months and months and months, depending on the type of habit that they were trying to ingrain.
You know, I do think whether it's snacking in the middle of the night or having a cigarette with your morning coffee, we have these routines of whether it's praying, that's just a good routine, or whether sometimes people have to have a habit of being nice and not being rude. Talk about the habits where people need to work on themselves, to establish habits to make themselves better.
I suppose the classic ones are exercise and smoking, giving up smoking, and healthy eating. And all of them are difficult for different reasons. Smoking is so difficult because you've got the chemical addiction to nicotine, and on top of that, you've got that sort of behavioural connection between between, for example, having your cup of coffee and having a cigarette. So it's like you're trying to break two habits at the same time rather than just one. You got the habit, the nicotine habit, and then you got the behavioural bit on top of that. And with eating, for example, is also very difficult because so much of our behaviour is unconscious. So we eat stuff without really realizing we're eating it, especially if you're doing something like watching TV, for example. It's very easy to eat more than you really intend to. But I think in some ways exercise is one of the hardest habits to kind of get into because there's nothing to sort of force you to start exercising. Like with eating, you've got your appetite coming around every few hours. But with exercise, there's nothing sort of forcing and pushing you to get out the door and do a run.
What do you mean nothing is forcing you? I mean, what about your livelihood, your health, your movement? I mean, the fact that you want to be in good health when you look around and see other people that don't work out and what the consequences are.
I think motivation is such an important thing, isn't it? And it can be difficult to get ourselves up for these kinds of things. So one of the things I talk about in the book is that it's really important to make a very specific plan when you're going to do some exercise or you're going to, start some new healthy eating habits. And some of the things that you can do, one of the things you can do is you can create this really specific connection between a situation that you're in and an action that you want to take in that situation. So one example for healthy eating is you say to yourself, if I feel hungry between meals, then I will eat an apple. So it's that connection between the situation and the action that you're going to take. And then each time you repeat that action in that situation, it makes the habit become slightly stronger. And so each time you're repeating, and you don't want to beat yourself up too much if you don't repeat it, every day or whatever your goal is, but you want to repeat it relatively regularly, and then hopefully the habit becomes automatic.
How do you break the habit of bad relationships, bad marriages, bad business partners?
Well, that's a big question. But broadly speaking, when you're trying to break habits, and I was thinking about those kind of things related to eating and smoking. If you're trying to break habits, it's really what's been found in the research is that when you try to suppress, like you try to push something out of your mind, that doesn't work. I mean, what happens is that you try not to think about cake, for example, and that means that cake comes back into your mind even stronger. So one of the best things to do is to try and replace a bad habit with a good one. So you're looking to replace rather than actually suppress.
The thing that I like about this book is how you break down and categorize it. I like the book where you talked about habits to form unconsciously. I thought that was important. Talk about that, because sometimes people are just not aware of it.
Yeah, and maybe 50% of the things that we do every day are habits. And what psychologists have found is that we're not really aware of habits. And that's a good thing in some ways and a bad thing in other ways. And the reason it's a good thing is because the purpose of habits is to take away, the need for us to concentrate on them so that we can do stuff automatically, like when you're driving your car and, you're automatically looking at the stoplights and you're automatically steering and everything else. You don't actually have to think about that as you're going along. And that leaves your mind, free to think about something else. And so that's the advantage of habits, but then the disadvantage of them being automatic is that when you try to change them, it's quite difficult to actually find out what you're doing. So that is the first challenge when you're trying to change habits, is just identifying what you're doing in the first place.
You write that one of the best habits consciously developed is writing, or rather the practice of trying to write. And 10 years ago, you found it hard to sit down regularly to write of your own accord. Nowadays, though, you arrive in front of the computer as if by magic. Although, unfortunately, the research and writing still doesn't do it itself, it is so ingrained that you feel there's something missing from the day when you have managed to squeeze out at least a few words. And you're asking about your own worst habit, and now you're putting yourself on the spot. You're saying that what are your best habits and your worst ones? Can your best habit be your worst habit?
I think that the judgment we make about our habits is really important, and some habits can easily, things that are good habits can quite easily become bad habits if if they get out of control. And probably one of the classic examples is obsessive compulsive disorder. So this is people who are get anxious and feel they need to, for example, wash their hands, or they need to check that they've locked the door and so on, and they need to keep doing it loads and loads, such that it's interrupting their lives. But if you come back and think about everyone, we all want to kind of keep ourselves clean, and we all want to make sure we've turned off the oven before we leave the house, and all these kinds of things. So it's like they're regular worries and the kinds of habits. What's happened is with OCD, for example, is that the worry has got out of control and the habit has got out of control. So there is a bit of a fine line here, and one side of it, it can become a disorder.
The other thing that you talk about is why it is so important to make an effort to occasionally interrupt our routines with unusual activities. Now, that was a new one for me.
Yeah. Well, one of the problems with habits, and it's pretty irritating, is that things that you enjoy and you do routinely, you tend to lose the pleasure from, or rather, that you don't experience as much pleasure as time goes on. It's like the idea that, the first time you do something, it's the most exciting, and then it gets progressively less exciting as you do the same thing. So, like, you need more of it, for example. That's, like with caffeine, you need to drink more caffeine to get the same effect from it. So over time, the pleasure goes away from activities. So one thing that you can do, and this is what's been tested in the research, quite a few studies have been done on this in various different areas. What you can do is just make small changes to your routines. I'm not talking about, completely changing the way that you live, but it's more about thinking about how you can change things slightly. Now, one example for me, I'm into cycling.
Hold that point about cycling. Jeremy Dean. Jeremy Dean is our guest. He's on the Armstrong Williams Show. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea, Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
So now you were saying that you're a cyclist. Please continue that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I really enjoy cycling. So one of the things we were talking about was that the pleasure from activities tends to leak away over time as we repeat them, because habits seem to become more and more emotionless over time. But one of the things that you can do that's been tested in the studies is that you can make quite small tweaks, quite small changes. So when I'm cycling, for example, I try to make sure that I go a different route, or I listen to some different music, or listen to no music at all. And, that can make a big difference, along with cycling at different times of the day, if that's possible. That kind of simple change can help bring back that pleasure that you get from routine activities. What it's effectively doing is, when you're on autopilot, when you're performing a habit, what it can do is it bumps you off that autopilot and it brings you back into the moment, and it makes you experience the moment a bit more consciously. So that's one thing that can help quite a lot.
I find this interesting about habits are like the 7 deadly sins. Habits can be pretty. How do people break bad habits like stealing, lying, cheating? You're a serial rapist. You're a serial killer. Do you consider those habits? What context do you place those in?
I think they can be. They can be, because a habit is any action that we perform in the same situation. So, for example, if you're in the habit of getting very angry in certain situations, then that can be a bad habit, and one that it would be sensible to think about changing. And one of the things that you can do, which sometimes is taught in anger management classes, is it's about looking to see what are the common elements in the situation. What is it in the situation that's making you feel angry? What's the kind of root cause? And it can be very difficult to work it out, but hopefully what you can do is you can try to work out what it is that's starting these things off, and then you can make a change there.
Change. No, I will tell you this. I have found in making a change, people feel that some of their habits are the routine which they establish for their success. People also become very paranoid if they begin to change their habits, especially if you change your habit immediately and all of a sudden you perceive that something bad happened as a result. You would directly correlate that with the fact that you changed your habit. But I found in the most significant changes that I make in life, mine had to do more with a spiritual reawakening rather than a living, let's say a physical reawakening, because I don't make changes when I'm at the... Look, what I'm saying, I find it's best to make changes when you're at the apex, when you're at the height of your success. I think that's when you should be the most critical, because I think when you're at the apex, it's when you're the most vulnerable. But people think they need to change their habits when they're at the low ebb of life.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. It is a good point, because, when you're at a low point, it's very difficult to make some kind of change, because just like if you look at your day, if you just think of your day, and you think of the low point of your day, which is really probably towards the evening when you've done your work and you're tired, that's when your self-control is lowest, and in many ways it's hardest to make changes then. So I think it's a good point you make, that it's quite difficult to make those changes when you're at a low point. And yeah, when you're feeling good and things are going well, then you've got that extra level of self-control that you need to initiate some kind of change. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think what people forget, and I don't think that this point is addressed enough in these books that are written,
even for me, whether at the apex, I don't know if I've ever been in the valley. I've gone through sexual harassment lawsuits, and I've gone through No Child Left Behind, but still, I don't know if I've ever really been in a valley of life or even close to it. I've had my moments of struggle and doubt, but in terms of where I've been at the brink, where I most have lost it all, and I just had nothing left. I don't think I've been close to that point, but I will tell you what is very interesting is that I've learned that in life, especially with success, even when success, you get tired of being successful. Sometimes you get tired of being good. Sometimes you want to be rebel, especially when people think that you've got everything going for you. You don't have problems. Sometimes in the craziest way, you want to be human and show I'm just as human as anybody else. And so, I've had those moments where it could have been where I'm about to commit adultery with somebody else's wife. It could be something that's crazy at that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm using this as an example to make a bigger point. And the point is this, is that when I'm about to engage in those moments, I can see a flash. It's as if something spiritually within me can take me into an out-of-body experience. And it's not that I can see the future, but I can feel such a bad thing that it scares me into not doing it. And I think sometimes people choose to ignore that the body and the spirit has within it its own protection mode to protect you from the things that would be the consequences of the future by the actions you make today. And I think sometimes we ignore that. And I don't know if I've ever said this anywhere before, but it is true. Oftentimes I can see the consequences of what I'm about to do before doing it. And I'm so frightened and so afraid by what I feel, because I know when I had that feeling before and ignored it, what the consequences were, I just stop in my track and I say to everybody, forget this, I can't do it. And they say, well, I said, I can't explain, I gotta go, I gotta get out of here, because this house is burning, you just can't see the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I think one of the things you're talking about there is that kind of gut instinct, aren't you? You get that gut instinct, that feeling coming up that you're doing the wrong thing, you're in the wrong situation. And I think you're right to say that there are some people do seem to ignore that gut instinct, and they carry on, and they get the pleasure out of that situation, whatever that situation might be, and then they learn that habit, and they learn to kind of get over that gut instinct. But I do think that that gut instinct you're talking about is probably varies between people. I think some people don't really have it quite so much, and at the extreme end of the scale, you have people who are sociopaths, for example, and they don't really seem to experience guilt, and they don't really seem to experience that level of empathy that most people have with others, that is something that stops them from doing bad things. So, I think there's quite a bit of variation between people.
I think what we forget is that for a long period, you can do bad things and terrible things and feel you're being rewarded for it, and get rewarded for it, and you begin to believe that it is your behavior that you're being rewarded for, and you cannot really navigate the seriousness of the devastation and the hurt that you're causing others. And because you continue to do that, you build these habits, and then all of a sudden you hit the lottery. All of a sudden, something you've been working on works out for you, and so you begin to believe that life is reinforcing your behavior, and you could be as far away from the truth as I am from Antarctica right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the problems, I suppose, is that sometimes the wrong behaviors are reinforced by society or by other people around us or by our own internal reward systems, and so we end up doing things that are dangerous for ourselves and for others in the long run. And it's quite difficult sometimes to spot bad habits, and part of the reason is that fact that they're unconscious. So these processes are going on deep in the mind, and we don't really realize that they're down there, and we don't necessarily notice the behaviors that we're performing as a result. So that can be difficult.
I would tell you this, and you said it all. It's whether you have a conscience or not, because a conscience speaks clearly and consistently. And I tell you, for me, we all have habits. I like to form the good habits. But I tell you, I learn very well from other people. I've seen some people. I've read it. I know some on firsthand. I know some people who are suffering. It's beyond belief the way they're suffering. I mean, nothing has gone right in their life. To the point, I've seen them get to the point where they talk about suicide. They say to themselves, why do I live this way? My life, I mean, this is not living. This is not living. And so for me, I say to myself, I don't know. I'm not saying that person is doing anything to cause this, but my attitude is, I sure don't want to live that way. So fear is a motivator. I just can learn from other people of the things I don't want to become. But other people need to learn the hard way.
And that's an important point you make as well about habits. And good or bad, we learn the habits of our lives from those people around us. There's quite a few studies on children and adolescents, and we do tend to pick these things up from those people around us. And there's actually a bit of research on children, for example, showing that it's their peer groups, really, more than their parents, actually. It's their peer groups, their friends at school that tend to affect them the most. And certainly many of our habits are picked up at that early impressionable age. And something as simple as the way in which we interact with a stranger, for example, whether we're polite to strangers or not, is something that we can pick up at that early age and can stretch across the rest of our lives. So, yeah, and conscience is absolutely important as well, but we have to be, to a certain extent, we have to be taught to develop our conscience. Our conscience has to be instilled in us by other people.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. How can someone go out and get the book, Making Habits, Breaking Habits?
You can go along to my website, which is Psyblog, so that's Psyblog. If you Google that, you'll get along to my website, and then you can go through to the book.
Thank you for being such a terrific guest, and all the best.
Thank you very much for having me.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Gary Barnard, how are you today? And happy 2013.
I'm doing well, Armstrong. Thanks for asking.
What did you do? Did you go away?
No, not for the New Year. Before the Christmas break, we went on a Disney cruise with my grandkids and my daughter and her husband. Had a blast.
Josh did not go?
No. Josh did not go, no.
I must
Josh worked.
I must tell the audience that Josh is Gary Barnard's son. Is one of my closest friends in the world, for full disclosure. In fact, we talk all the time.
That's right.
Josh is just a great guy. So if you had told me Josh had gone on a cruise, I would have come through the microphone.
I bet you would. He's a unique guy. No, I don't think we could have gotten him on a Disney cruise. Probably.
Oh no, he loves to tell you how busy he is and how exhausted and how he works all the time.
That's right. You got it.
You know,
you do know Josh.
Yes, listen, but he was going to come and attend the Redskin Cowboys football game with me a couple of weeks ago, but I just didn't push the issue. But so I left it alone. I let him sit around and just wallop in his complaints. But
he may get after me for telling you this, but I think he was saving up some money. He went to Colorado to Breckenridge with his kind of a girlfriend, and her folks have a ski house in Breckenridge, so he went up there for about 7 days.
Well, that's good. That's good for him.
Yeah,
that's good, and that's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah. Did you travel?
I'm always traveling. I
figured you did, but you went to South Carolina to visit your folks?
I spent a week with my mother. It's one of the best holidays that I can remember. It was really wonderful.
Good for you.
I had a great time. So what's on your mind today?
Oh, I listened to the first probably 10 minutes of Jeremy Dean and you talking about habits. That's always a good one. I like talking about habits and how we try to go about breaking habits, setting new habits every time.
How are habits formed, the good and bad habits? Where does it start?
Well, they all begin with behaviors that get strengthened, reinforced, somehow rewarded. And when you do that enough, the habit strength goes way up, and then those become fairly embedded routines, and then they're pretty hard to extinguish if they've been reinforced sort of intermittently. That's the hardest schedule of reinforcement to extinguish or stop. And I think one of the things he said was really important. You don't go about doing it by telling yourself not to do it. That's just not how our brain is wired together. It's wired more on positive feedback than that kind of negative. If you're thinking about something, whether it's don't do it or do it, that's what you're thinking about. And it's hard to try to put something in its place if that's the thing you're thinking about. So one of the things is get good at focusing on the positive opposite. So if you say, I have a bad habit of smoking cigarettes, what would be the positive opposite? It would be learning how to take in deep breaths of clean air instead of polluted air that has all these chemicals. And only one of them is really addictive. The rest of them aren't addictive, they're just harmful. So it's trying to set up habits or behaviors enough that provide something that we need, something that we want. For example, besides the nicotine, the reason people smoke, it's the behavioral component. I get to take a break. I get a cup of coffee. I associate it with taking a deep breath. Every time I suck in that, I'm taking a deep, deep breath. That part is good. It's just that there's some harmful things going in routinely that, of course, aren't good for us.
There are so many things that are not good for us, and there are things that we think are good for us, and we find out that are bad for us, and then there are things that we think are bad for us, and it's vice versa. It's such a roller coaster, man.
It is, and we can just bounce around on that roller coaster. Every time we hear something new, we're pulled in that direction. And that's why one of the things I like to talk about, and maybe today we can do that, is just shifting from these resolutions and these statements of goals, which I think are good, we need them, and bringing it into our awareness is a healthy thing. But just kind of sitting back and saying, I've got to do a lot of things. I have a lot of demands. What are my priorities? What are the things that seem to rise to the top? Billy Williams back in the day with the Cubs said the cream always rises to the top. And he's right. You shake it up. I know you probably did some churning butter in your day. I know I did on a dairy farm. And you really put the pressure on that stuff, and the good stuff rises to the top. And I think, we're under a lot of pressure. But I think if we just focus on what are our priorities, for example, as a parent, really what is my priority? If I stay focused on all the negative things going on in my life as a parent, my kids are struggling in school, they have ADHD, they're depressed, they're a behavior problem, I don't make enough money. All these kinds of things are things that can really be a big problem, I know, but to stay focused on those things consumes an enormous amount of our energy. And if we just focus on the positive opposite, we can conserve some energy. So clear up things by being clear about priorities. That's one thing we can do.
Yeah. What is it? What are the things that people really need to focus on that can really bring meaning to their lives, success, and less stress?
Yeah. Well, we're all
because
different.
Sometimes we don't know sometimes we focus on the wrong things that bring us harm and headache.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's like the glass that's half full or the glass that's half empty. We all have our perceptions that are influenced by our behaviors. If we've had in our experience in history, if we've had some real negative things happen, traumatic things, whatever, if we're hanging on to those and sort of piling on, those become our focus. And that negative stuff cannot do good things for us. There's no way. The rules of the game are focus on healthy concepts, constructs, principles. Get the rules straight, follow them. It is our best chance to have a fairly well-regulated, adaptive adjustment to life. Life is going to bring us some stuff we don't like, and there will be a little bit of the ups and downs. It's when they become extreme and they become chronic that it hurts us. We're not engineered for chronic stress like that. We can handle little bursts.
You know what I hear you saying?
What's that?
We are our worst and best enemy.
Yeah, we can be. That's true. We can be, because we're the ones with the power, and if we misuse it, we are our number one enemy. That's exactly right.
But still, you know what? I don't think people have learned overall the art of navigating life. To me, if we go back to that old biblical encouragement in the Bible that, especially if you read the books of Ecclesiastics, where it talks about life is short, trials and tribulations. But I tell you this, I have found life to be more than fair, to be more than generous. I have found that not because of, but in spite of my sin, that God has given me and the people I know far more than we deserve. I'm just telling you. I never wake up in the morning expecting that I'm going to have success. To me, it's just a blessing, because I realize when I read the papers and I realize people who are diagnosed with prostate cancer and breast cancer, and they have an aneurysm and people just fall dead. And I just say to myself, that could have easily been me. And when I measure my life by that, I realize I have nothing to complain about. To me, if you've got your health, to me, your health is the most valuable asset that you possess. And to protect that by exercising, by what you eat, and also the kind of relationships. I watched this show, The Investigative ID, and I see how people make these choices for these bad relationships. They want people with money. They want people with looks. They want people.
Sure.
And this has nothing to do with whether they're a good person or not. They get caught up in what the media tells them they should look for in a relationship, and they realize engaging with people who could be serial killers, rapists, and they make their lives miserable because the looks fade. But goodness and ethics and integrity and honor and trust and loyalty, it continues to gain and grow. So, people get so screwed up in what it is that fulfills them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you're exactly right. And you mentioned something that I might say goes with what we're talking about, and that is, you say you wake up with this positive outlook. It sounds like what you're saying, Armstrong, is you have this construct of health, this positive psychology construct or principle that you hang on to, and it's one of gratitude. See, I think that one thing we found in multiple research studies, that one factor of waking up and being grateful and having that high up on your ladder of principles that rule your life. See, it's superordinate to all these other things. If money is superordinate, well, as long as you have money, I guess you'll be okay, maybe, in some ways. But it isn't that's our reality. You can have money and still have bad health. You can have money and have bad relationships.
You can have money and somebody kill you for it. Somebody kill you and poison you for it. Please.
Yeah.
People are crazy.
Yeah. So
money could be a curse.
Gratitude is a healing kind of characteristic to integrate into who you are. And it is refreshing. You can wake up and all of us can say, I'm so grateful.
Hold there. I'm looking for good people. That's all I'm looking for. We'll be back with Gary Barnard on the Armstrong Williams Show.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back. You said it, Dr. Barnard. Gratitude. We are so busy complaining about what we don't have and how unfair life is. We don't see the thousands of blessings we have every day.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, what we just talked about is breaking habits. Well, let's go back, because the principle that we talked about is exactly what you're talking about now. And it is, you can focus on that negative thing, smoking, eating too much, especially watching TV as a stress reducer, whatever it is. You can focus on that, and that's usually what you get more of. You can complain about all the negative things going on in your life, or you can switch that around. Use this principle of bipolarity, the opposite principle. Go to the positive opposite every time and focus on that. You'll get more of that. You'll be attending more to the things that bring about that. You'll start reordering your life around the appropriate natural rules that deliver that thing. And so gratitude is one big, huge positive opposite that sets up our attitude in the right trajectory. Then a lot of other things are easier to focus on that are positive if we're grateful people. If we're complaining all the time, very difficult to focus on anything but the negative.
You know, I'll tell you the interesting, it's not a dilemma, but it is an interesting challenge. And I know it's probably going to get back to the family. You know, my mother, who thrived off wanting to have weight on her, she thought that was the pitch of health. And all of a sudden, she had an arrhythmic heart, and they had to put her on this Coumadin and all this medicine. And as a result, over the last 5 or 6 years, she's gone from 147 pounds to 105. Wow. And I want to tell you, let me tell you, she does not feel she looks good, okay? Now, when I'm home, and I used to tell her, I said, Mom, you look real pretty, you know, and she thinks I'm making fun of her. I said, no. No. And then, but this is something that interesting happened this time we were home. Because listen, it's very hard for me, I'm telling you, because she has lost a lot. She doesn't look the same. I mean, it's obvious, but my attitude is you can't look the same. But how do you get someone that you love so unconditionally to start feeling good about themselves again? And listen, this has gone on for 2 or 3 years. And what she will do, she has gone from a size 16 to a size 8. She refuses to wear size 8 clothes. She wears size 16 because she refuses to accept the fact that she will never be size 16 again, and she will be size 8 or less. And so she wears these big clothes, and it's just so, for a son, it's hard. So, but this Christmas, I was home. And so she had a doctor's appointment, and they wanted me to take her. So she put on this outfit where she looked so big. But before that, I said, Mom, you look good. I said, you do look good. She just rolls her eyes. I said, you look good. She said, I weigh 90-some pounds. I said, no, Ma, you have gained weight. What you mean? I said, Ma, I'm telling you, you've gained weight. You're gaining weight. You're looking good. But you don't feel good about yourself. You keep wearing these big clothes. And I could tell it hurt her, right? So anyhow, we go to the doctor. She does the checkup. And so they asked her to get on the scale. Mama gets on the scale. Mama weighs 111 pounds. You think I'm joking? If they had started playing music in that hospital room, I would start shouting right there. I was so... You think I'm joking? I got happy. No, because I saw her transform. She turned around. She said, that boy told me I put on weight and I look good. And the doctor said, yes, Miss Williams, you look good. You said, you're doing good. And lo and behold, Mama said, I just thought you were lying to me to make me feel good. I said, no, Mama, you're doing good. She said, boy, I sure appreciate your telling. She said, well, you know what we need to do? And this is my 86-year-old mother. She said, I can't wear those clothes no more. You and I need to go. I know I don't feel like, but we need to go. I need to buy a new wardrobe. For the first time in 3 years. Man,
outstanding.
Let me tell you something. I jumped in that car. Man, let me tell you something. We made a beeline to Dillard's. I bought her all these new outfits. She took them to the seamstress, and her whole attitude is back to being. But it took 3 years. But it's not enough. The doctor reinforced it, and now she's eating. She's eating meats. You have no idea. It's such a big deal. It's so emotional to see your aged parents because they don't feel good about themselves. In fact, her favorite thing, I don't even want to go out. They don't feel they're the same. But once they start believing, and you got to help them as a son. You got to be patient. You have to understand where they are. And finally, after all these years, that woman asked for a new wardrobe.
These are not easy things, but you see, she did make the change. She lost weight. Whatever she did it enough where she lost weight. Now we've got to reset our whole attitude and perception, our self-image, all these different things that are very powerful that have been with us for a long time.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It is torment because obviously what she's saying is true. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah.
But you also realize something else is deteriorating along with that if you don't change your attitude. So it's a slow track to death. It really is.
Yes. That's a great example of how powerful these things are.
Yes. I was there. And look, I have been on such a high. That was December the 25th. That was December 26th. I have not lost that feeling. And people have been asking me, I've never talked, why are you? Because my mother found a reason to live. And in living, she's dressing again. She cares about how she looks. I saw her putting a little powder on her face. I was just, I was excited.
See, because if we believe something and rearrange our priorities, that's where our energy and our attitude and our attention and resources go. It changes pretty naturally if we can get our head screwed on straight.
Overnight.
We do the same. Yeah, absolutely. We do the same thing with our children. It's an interesting kind of dilemma, for us as older adults to have our elderly parents, and they kind of go through these same changes of self-confidence, self-esteem. They feel undervalued. There's no place for me. Well, just thinking about oneself that way creates your reality. You are stuck, and it's a terrible feeling. But once you reclaim the things that make you who you are and unique and have always been, and you start thinking about yourself in a more positive, productive way, and you're grateful for these changes, your whole behavior and energy level changes.
It is true. And she's walking again. She wants to exercise.
Outstanding. I'm so proud.
I'm just telling you. And she told me, she said to me before I left, she said, boy, I'm telling you something. I'm trying to live. And that's
good for her.
That's important. And I share this story because it's a very personal story, because there are others out there just like me, but they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, these are difficult things. Very emotionally charged issues. Yeah.
Very.
And I'm so glad that you got to be part of that. That's even more special.
Listen, and I don't feel sorry for her. It's not that I feel pity. Because listen, she's 86 years old. Sure. Let's be clear. That's a blessing in and of itself. But I want her to feel good about herself. Okay? And so she does now. I can tell that. Listen, she's an entirely different person. And you know what? What that lesson is, it's just like all things in time. Not the time you want it to happen, but eventually. If you do what you're supposed to do, all things work in time.
Yeah. You make a good plan. It's based on the natural principles that regulate all life forms. These are things that we've read in the Bible, ancient writings, mystics. We've just lost touch with these basic sort of regulating, normalizing rules. And when we give them up, we find that this gap is filled with anxiousness, depressed mood, worries, all these other things, chasing money. And all we need to do is just kind of settle back down and play by the rules and learn some patience. It will work. These are natural principles. We will live our best life if we're following these basic rules of healthy living.
Dr. Barnard, how old are your parents? Because I know you can relate to this story.
They're about your mother's age. They're in their 80s, so they're the same.
And it's a different world, and they all are the same.
Pardon me?
They're all the same. They're all the same. No difference. But, but at least the good news is that we're not so wrapped up in our lives that we say, well, they live their lives. We care about them if they were 50, 80, it doesn't matter. As long as they have life, we're glad they're here.
Absolutely.
And we want to preserve them.
We celebrate it in every natural way that we can. We celebrate it because we're forever connected. That's what parents and kids are. And if you rear your kids in that way and provide that for them, we're never going to depart, basically. That's the whole message here with these principles. These are habits that are well ingrained, and when they're strengthened and they actually have purpose and bring about good effects, we hang on to them. We don't even have to think about it. It's unconscious. It's a really efficient way to live our lives.
Yes. I cannot thank you enough today, Dr. Barnard. This was really good, and you gave me a chance to share about my 86-year-old mother, which is
I'm so glad you did.
I have a good mother, and I don't know if I have a better ally in life. I mean, it's so unconditional and scary, I have to tell you. And so they're so sweet, but they do return to childhood. That is a fact. The Bible's right. Oh, they return to childhood.
Right. But isn't it great to know that we have people in our life, relationships? You said, I'm looking for good people. Well, here's a good deal. Be a good person, good people come our way, and we recognize them because we know it intimately. And that's what you do, and so you're surrounding yourself with good people, including your mother.
Thank you, Dr. Barnard.